Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to talk about the second part of the Slack self-query search, which is about once you get the structured query from a natural language query like this, what was the article shared by first name, last name about AI safety, how do you get from here to all the way to the language or the search query that Slack understands. So in the last video I showed you how you can structure the query into a Langchain structured query format like this, and I left the other part which is about how to get from here to this part, which is the query that it Slack understands, right? So if I make this request just to give a quick demo of it, it actually runs this query. I'm actually getting the intermediate steps as well, getting the intermediate structured query, and then finally the translated query, right? So this is the search query which I can actually give it to Slack search API directly and actually get the results, right? So here you can see it has the from modifier, and it has identified the value to be the name of the person, and it has put the @ sign, and the actual query content is something it has put at the end of it, right? So if I go back to the diagram which I was using last time, in the last video we discussed this part, and we're getting the structured query, Langchain structured query, this part. In this video, we are going to talk about how to get from this structured query to this part, right? So to demonstrate this a bit more, I'll take this another example that we discussed and put this into the actual request and let's see if it works. So this question is, what was the article shared by Fibin on PTech Learning channel about building AI coworker personality? And in the last video we saw that this is actually, it was able to give. Now it is able to actually translate that Langchain's internal standard structured query format into Slack format, which is from Fibin in PTech Learning. In is the modifier used for such in a specific channel, and the actual content of the query is building AI coworker personality, right? I'll take the last example as well, which we discussed last time. What was the message shared by Ish about marketing AI product about a week ago? So if I put that and send this, so you can see again got the Langchain structured query here, and finally the translated query into the Slack format from Ish after this particular date. So today is 21st December, and about a week ago, so it is able to identify the date to be 14th December, and the content is marketing for AI products. So now I'll just show you the actual code that works behind the scenes. So this is the Slack query translator that we have written. So I'll just quickly tell what it is about. So when you have a structured query like this, the Langchain structured query, what it does is we need to basically call this function visit structured query and pass this whole structured query into it and run it. Basically runs that thing, and this particular class has two abstract functions called visit comparison and visit operation. Basically what it does is it goes through this whole format. Each of these, you can see here, there is an operator and there is a comparator, and it basically goes through each of these elements, each of these components of this structured query, and calls this function for visit comparison for each of the comparator, and calls this operator visit operation function for this operator kind of component, and runs this function. So what we are doing here is we are checking whether the comparator is equal to or contain or like. So these are the three comparators that we are interested in, because that's what we want to identify. That's how we want to identify what we're talking about. And it looks for the attribute. If the attribute is from, then you put into this, basically return from colon and then @ and the comparison value, which is the name of the person. Similarly, if the comparison attribute is in, then it will be slightly different. Obviously this will be an in value, in string, then colon, and then hashtag, and then the actual name of the channel. Similarly for others as well. And if it is none of these, it has none of these has or to or from or in, it basically assumes that that's basically a date comparison, and basically it calls the visit date thing, which takes care of the date comparison. Similarly for operation, for and or operation, it basically looks for the same thing. If it is an and operator, then it simply concatenates the query one after another just by putting a white space. But if it is an or operator, you have to set this thing or thing in between. So this is a actually undocumented feature from Slack search, but it actually works. We have tried it internally and it actually works. So this is how we are creating this Slack search query translator, and it is heavily inspired by the actual code for the Weaviate translator that we have, right? So if you see here, this is the Weaviate query translator, and this pretty much works the same way. It has visit comparison, visit operation thing, and it translates the query into this particular format. So it looks for the it has a different logic, how it figures out which comparison or which operator we are talking about, and basically translates it into the format which Weaviate understands. So basically we model this thing based on this piece only, right? So that's how we made the Slack translator, and it's working pretty nicely, as you saw that in the demo. So lastly, I'll just talk about how I got here. I talked about it in last video as well. I'm using the Slack Langchain Self-Query system, and it is quite versatile. It allows you to structure any natural language query into the structured query part, and the rest of it can be directly search content itself. And we are using this in order to use the Slack search and translate this to the Slack search. We basically refer to the Slack's documentation here, where it explains what each of the modifier does. For example, the in modifier, the from modifier, the has modifier, and it has a few other modifiers as well. And that's how we made this Slack query translator. Finally, just to contextualize this, to how this can be useful, we have implemented this only for Slack search, but you can actually implement this thing for any kind of search, for Google search, for search in your Notion, for search in your Hubspot, for search in your Gmail. And I feel this is a very powerful idea, because for any natural language query, you want to use self-querying part to self-query system to reduce the search space and add these filters beforehand, so that you can have a better search relevance. So if you understand this whole piece with the previous video and this video, I think you will be equipped to create your own search query translator very easily for any kind of search engine. This is for Slack. It is inspired from Weaviate search translator, query translator, but you can make the same for Google search, for Notion search, for Hubspot search, and anything else, and that could be very, very helpful. And that's pretty much it. Let me know if you have any feedback. If you like the content, please consider subscribing to the channel, and I'm hoping to make more of these videos. Thanks a lot. Bye.